Hello everyone, I'm glad you're here. Please like and subscribe so I can tell more interesting stories. Now let's get started. It was supposed to be a normal checkup, just one of those things you do because you're an adult, and adults go to the doctor, right? I had my usual plan: go in, nod politely, get out, maybe pick up a coffee on the way home if traffic was light. I wasn't expecting to leave with what felt like a biological plot twist. The nurse called me in the blood pressure cuff, did its squeeze and hiss routine, and the blood draw was business as usual. Poke fill label, done. I even joked with the tech about how I still look away like a 5-year-old when the needle goes in. Then a few days later, I got the call. You know the one. The one where the nurse's tone shifts from breezy to gently serious, and suddenly you're sitting on the edge of your couch, gripping your phone like it's a live wire. She said my cholesterol was high, not just slightly high, dangerously high. I paused, like, eat a salad and I'm good high, or like, start planning your will high. She chuckled politely. Your LDL is 193. I had no idea what that meant. 193 could have been a bowling score or a credit rating, and I wouldn't have blinked, but her tone told me it wasn't good. My doctor followed up and didn't mince words. You need to make changes, or we're talking meds and increased heart attack risk. It's serious. I remember nodding like I understood, but inside my brain was going, what even is cholesterol? Isn't that just something old people talk about after golf? Apparently not. That night, I fell into a cholesterol rabbit hole. I Googled terms like HDL versus LDL and triglycerides explained like I'm 5. My search history made me look like a worried grandparent. I learned that LDL is the bad cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein. It clogs arteries like grease in a kitchen sink. HDL is the good kind, high-density lipoprotein. It actually helps clean up some of the mess. And triglycerides, they're like the bonus villain, quietly adding to the chaos. Still, the numbers made no sense to me emotionally. They were just statistics on a screen until I remembered my Uncle Jim. He was 53. Fit Funny still played tennis. Dropped dead of a heart attack while tying his shoe. No warning, just gone. And later we found out, yep, high cholesterol. He never took it seriously. Suddenly the numbers felt real. I went to the mirror and looked at myself differently. Not critically, not about weight or wrinkles, just curiously. What else is going on in there that I can't see? I wasn't overweight. I exercised occasionally. I thought I ate fine, but clearly something was off. Historians still debate whether the earliest understanding of heart disease was rooted in Greek humoral theory or came later with autopsies in Renaissance Europe. But what's clear is that humans have always struggled to see inside themselves until it's too late. I didn't want to be another surprise, so I sat down at my kitchen table, a bowl of pasta in front of me, and just stared at it. Suddenly, it felt like an enemy, which was confusing because that pasta and I had been through some things together: late nights, breakups, Sunday nights with cheese sauce. And now it felt like it was looking back at me like, yeah, I did this, and I'd do it again. I put the fork down. That night, I started sorting through the fridge like it was a crime scene. The cheese drawer alone made me whisper an apology to my arteries. Buttercream bacon, so much saturated fat, it could probably fuel a small engine. And don't get me started on the leftover pizza with the double cheese crust. I felt betrayed, not by the food, but by myself. How had I been eating like this and calling it fine? It was like I'd been living in a sitcom kitchen where calories are invisible, cholesterol is a myth, and you can eat an entire lasagna with no consequences. But now, the curtain was pulled back. That night, I went to bed with a strange mix of emotions: fear, embarrassment, a dash of grief for my old eating habits, and a weird sense of determination. I didn't want to be perfect. I just wanted to not die before my next vacation. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I made oatmeal. No butter, no brown sugar, just oats, cinnamon, and a splash of almond milk. It tasted like sadness at first, But halfway through the bowl, I felt something else. Hope. The kind that comes in tiny, boring spoonfuls. I wish I could tell you I became a nutrition expert overnight. But really, it started with me standing in front of my fridge like it had personally offended me. Every shelf, every drawer, every bottle of creamy salad dressing suddenly had guilt dripping off it. And that wasn't even the worst of it. The freezer was basically a cholesterol war zone. Pizza rolls, garlic bread, frozen burritos that looked like they'd been engineered in a lab to block arteries on contact. I pulled everything out like I was exorcising demons. Halfway through, I found a stick of butter so old it had fossilized. Pretty sure if archaeologists found it, they'd assume it was ceremonial. The weird thing, I didn't even feel angry. I felt betrayed. Not by the food, but by how long I'd been letting it make decisions for me. Like I was out here trusting a tub of creamy ranch bacon, explosion to fuel my heart. What was I thinking? So I did what any 21st century confused adult does. I Googled. A lot. First came the basics. What actually raises cholesterol? Turns out saturated fats and trans fats are like the evil twins of the food world. Butter, red meat, cheese, fried anything. They were the poster children. Then I stumbled across plant sterols, soluble fiber, polyunsaturated fats. It all sounded like ingredients for a magic potion, or maybe a spell you'd hear in Harry Potter. One site suggested replace butter with avocado. I tried that on toast. Let's just say my taste buds staged a protest at first, but day by day, it started feeling doable. The real drama hit when I started going through the pantry. Canned soup, surprise loaded with sodium and saturated fat, my favorite boxed mac and cheese, practically a heart attack in powder form, the peanut butter. Oh yeah, sneaky trans fats lurking behind that wholesome label. That night, I had a very real, very awkward funeral for my processed food stash. I didn't cry, but I did whisper thanks for the memories to a box of cheesy crackers. Historians still debate whether ancient Egyptian priests truly linked certain foods to heart conditions, but if they saw my kitchen before this cleanse, they'd probably just nod sadly and walk away. But here's the thing. They didn't teach us this stuff in school. I knew how to diagram a sentence. I knew how to solve for X. But nobody taught me how to read a nutrition label or what triglycerides even were. And suddenly I was 30 plus, facing numbers on a blood test like I was reading a code from the Matrix. So I started slow, replacing butter with olive oil, swapping out white rice for brown, adding in beans, not my favorite texture, but hey, soluble fiber is soluble fiber. My first grocery trip after that fridge purge, wildly overwhelming. I wandered around like I was on a scavenger hunt where the prize was not dying. There I was muttering to myself in the cereal aisle. Okay, no added sugar, whole grains, soluble fiber, no weird oils. Wait, why is this box yelling heart healthy in all caps if it has 14 grams of sugar? I became that person, the one who blocks the aisle while reading every line of every label. People sighed behind me. A toddler bumped into my cart. I didn't care. I was on a mission. And then came the weirdest moment I found myself excited about oats. Not the fun kind with brown sugar and apple bits. No, just plain rolled oats, because they lower LDL cholesterol. Who was I becoming? At home, I downloaded a cholesterol tracking app, started meal planning, set reminders to drink water. I even bought flaxseed, like on purpose. And yeah, I made mistakes. One night, I ate an entire bag of trail mix thinking it was healthy. Spoiler, when half of it is chocolate-covered peanuts, it's basically candy in disguise. But slowly, the fridge began to look like it belonged to a different person. A person who gave a crap about their arteries. There were leafy greens, frozen berries, homemade hummus in little glass containers. I even labeled the shelves. It felt very grown up and mildly unhinged. Even my snacks changed. I went from cheese sticks and chips to air-popped popcorn, roasted chickpeas, and Carrots. So many carrots. I started dreaming in orange. One night, I hosted a movie night and laid out the new snacks. My friends stared at the veggie tray like it had personally insulted them. One of them actually said, "Where's the real food?" I smiled and said, "That is the real food." Okay, yes, I missed pizza. I missed cheeseburgers, but I didn't miss the bloat. I didn't miss the tight chest or the weird afternoon fatigue. And I definitely didn't miss worrying if I'd be next in the family to drop from a heart attack. By the end of that week, I'd learned two things. One, your kitchen is your first battlefield in the war on cholesterol. Two, oatmeal is way more versatile than anyone gives it credit for. Seriously, you can turn it into cookies, or blend it into smoothies, or throw it at someone who says cholesterol isn't a real problem. Not that I did that, but I thought about it. Anyway, by then I ditched most of the foods that once made me feel normal. And weirdly enough, I was starting to feel better. Not perfect, but lighter, clearer, like my insides were finally getting the memo that things were changing. And honestly, that alone was worth every awkward veggie tray moment. The grocery store had become my new gym. Not because I broke a sweat pushing my cart, although let's be honest, those end-of-aisle decisions between whole grain and multigrain could induce a mild panic attack. It was more like mental gymnastics. Every label was a puzzle, and I was the overachieving student trying to solve cholesterol with fiber. I had never thought twice about food labels before. Sodium cholesterol, added sugars, trans fats. I assumed that as long as it said organic somewhere on the box, I was doing fine. But now I was reading these tiny printouts like they held secrets to immortality. And it turned out they kind of did. Take cereal, for example. There I was holding a box that screamed, "Heart Healthy," in bold red letters, only to find it packed with 12 grams of sugar and oils I couldn't pronounce. I mean, hydrogenated sounds suspiciously like something out of a sci-fi thriller. Then I learned the difference between HDL and LDL, not just in theory, but in life. HDL is the good guy, the cleanup crew. LDL is the loiterer who sets your arteries on fire. And triglycerides, that's the chaotic sidekick always hovering in the background, stirring up drama. It's kind of poetic, actually. A whole cast of characters playing out in your bloodstream while you innocently chew your toast. Historians still debate whether the ancient Greeks had any concept of vascular health when they recommended olive oil for vitality. But judging by how often it's now praised in cardiology, maybe they were onto something. Either that, or they were just really into dipping bread. Anyway, I wasn't just reading labels, I was decoding my future. Every hidden fat, every added sugar felt like a decision I didn't even know I'd been making. One day I found myself standing in the dairy aisle, frozen in front of the yogurt section. Greek, regular, fat-free, full-fat, probiotic fruit on the bottom, dairy-free coconut versions, with names like Harmony Bliss. I blinked twice and walked away with plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt and a single tear. The produce aisle became my new favorite. I started making friends with things I used to walk past, beets, arugula, fennel, even Brussels sprouts, tiny cabbage imposters that somehow made a comeback in the 2010s. I started building meals around color. Red bell peppers, dark green kale orange, sweet potatoes, blueberries that looked like they'd been plucked from a Nordic forest. It was like eating a rainbow, but without the cartoon leprechaun. And yet, as I learned what to eat, I also had to learn what not to fall for. Cholesterol-free, screamed a bag of chips. Yeah, because they're made of 100% trans fat and regret. Low fat, said a bottle of dressing stuffed with sugar and enough preservatives to outlive me. Marketing had clearly been doing its job for years, but I was done being fooled. I bought a small notebook and started tracking meals. Not obsessively, just intentionally. What I ate, how I felt, how long I stayed full. Spoiler whole, oats and avocado toast held me over way longer than a cinnamon bun and a prayer. It was around this time that I had my first restaurant experience post-reform. I sat down, opened the menu, and immediately realized I'd entered a minefield. Creamy sauces, fried meats, cheese on everything, like they'd designed the entire menu to personally challenge my willpower. I ended up ordering grilled salmon with steamed broccoli. The server raised an eyebrow, as if I was breaking some unspoken rule of casual dining, thou shalt not eat, like a responsible adult. But here's the twist. I liked it. The salmon was flaky, the lemon bright, the broccoli perfectly crunchy. I didn't leave bloated or sleepy. I left feeling okay, even proud. And don't get me wrong, I still missed my old favorites, sometimes painfully, but now I looked at them differently, like exes I used to love, but now understood were bad for me. I also found small, weird joys in the shift. Discovering that tahini is basically magic, realizing you can roast almost anything and it turns delicious, learning that you don't need cheese on everything. Okay, that last one still hurts. Even my coffee changed. I went from sugary lattes to black with a dash of oat milk. My taste buds were being reborn one bitter sip at a time. It wasn't just what I ate, it was how I ate. Slower, more mindful. I stopped eating in front of screens, started using real plates instead of eating out of containers like a raccoon. Sometimes I even lit a candle, which made my quinoa feel strangely romantic. My friends noticed too. You're glowing, one said. I smiled. It's olive oil. They thought I was joking. I wasn't. And the funniest part, I started to like the label reading life. It made me feel powerful, like I wasn't at the mercy of food anymore. I was choosing consciously every time I opened the fridge or walked down an aisle. I wasn't perfect. I still had slip-ups. One night I accidentally ate a whole bag of veggie chips, which are apparently just potato chips that went to art school. But most days I felt in control. More than that, I felt clear. My mind wasn't foggy. My energy didn't crash by 3 p.m. I didn't need coffee just to feel alive. And for the first time in years, I could see the future and feel ready to meet it. There's no poetic way to say this. Giving up fried chicken almost broke me. It had been my comfort food, my celebratory food, my I've had a bad day so give me the crispy skin and don't ask questions food. And now, because of some pesky numbers on a blood test, I was supposed to just walk away like it meant nothing. I mean, I understood the science. Fried food equals trans fats. Trans fats equal artery clogging nightmares and cholesterol. That little menace fed off those fats like a gremlin at a buffet. So yes, I knew why, but emotionally it felt like giving up a piece of myself. Still, I committed. I said goodbye to deep fryers and hello to baking sheets. I invested in a tiny air fryer, modern adult rite of passage, and tried my hand at making crispy chickpeas. They came out more like little cannonballs, but hey, it was a start. The first week was brutal. I was hungry all the time. My body, confused and slightly angry, sent craving signals like Morse code. Cookies, burgers, creamy pasta, ice cream trucks started feeling like personal attacks. But I stuck to my plan. I prepped quinoa bowls like I was running a food truck. Roasted sweet potatoes until my kitchen smelled like autumn in California. Learned that kale doesn't have to taste like regret if you massage it with lemon juice and a little sass. I also started walking, just around the block at first, then a little further. The rhythm helped. Steps instead of stress, breathing instead of binging. Historians still debate whether the ancient Chinese concept of balancing yin and yang in food was their way of managing internal cholesterol before science had a name for it. But walking around my neighborhood, sipping green tea, I felt like maybe they had it figured out. By day 5, I had a weird moment with a salad. It was arugula, beets, walnuts, olive oil, lemon, and a sprinkle of goat cheese. Sounds fancy, right? It tasted like victory, like I'd cracked some code. And for dessert, a baked apple, just an apple, with cinnamon, no sugar, no crumble, no caramel. It felt borderline illegal at first, but halfway through I realized something wild. I liked it. Not in a this is a punishment way, in a my body is actually happy way. It was like my taste buds were waking up from a lifetime nap and saying, oh, hey, real food, we remember you. I started keeping a food journal not to count calories, but to track moods. I wrote down what I ate, how I felt before and after. Turns out, greasy food made me foggy and sluggish. Lighter meals, I felt energized, focused, even a little smug. On the weekend, I hit a low point. Friends invited me out for wings and beer. I went. I watched them order. I smiled. I sipped lemon water like a sad monk. Then I ordered grilled shrimp with veggies. It arrived looking like the sidekick to their golden, crispy platters. One friend actually said, "That's it." But you know what? I didn't die. I laughed. I chewed slowly. I talked more. And when we left, they looked bloated and sleepy, and I felt alive. That was the first night I realized something big. I wasn't being punished. I was being freed. I was letting go of the habits that had held me hostage for years. And yeah, it sucked at first. But day by day, bite by bite, it started to feel less like loss and more like power. There was this one moment standing in my kitchen, holding a bowl of lentil stew, where I just paused and whispered, "Look at us now." I said it to the stew, no shame. I even started experimenting. Chickpea tacos, cauliflower mash, zucchini noodles with marinara. Some were hits, some were tragic do not bake kale chips and walk away. They become dust. But the fun was in the trying. And here's something wild: I didn't miss dessert. Okay, maybe I missed cake on birthdays. But I learned to make dark chocolate avocado mousse that could fool anyone with half a conscience. I called it Chocovado. It never caught on, but it caught my heart. The trick was balance. I didn't ban food. I replaced it. I didn't starve. I swapped. I made room for joy, but not at the cost of my arteries. And my body responded. My sleep improved. My headaches vanished. My skin looked clearer. And one day I realized I hadn't had an energy crash at 3 p.m. in over a week. That was huge. They don't tell you this when you start. They don't warn you how good you might feel, how much better life tastes when you're not dragging yourself through each day on greasy fuel. I won't lie, the cravings didn't disappear completely. I still get tempted when I smell fries in the air, but now I just inhale, smile, and keep walking, because I remember how that food made me feel after. And I've grown kind of addicted to this new feeling, this weird combination of clarity and calm. Turns out, when you take care of your heart, your head follows. I didn't expect dinner parties to become the battlefield of my cholesterol journey, but here we were. There's something about saying, "I'm eating heart healthy" now that makes people look at you like you've joined a cult. Suddenly, everyone's an expert. You know, moderation is key. One slice won't kill you. Come on, live a little. It's like they think cholesterol is imaginary or that I'm trying to ruin their fun. But no, Susan, I'm just trying not to clog my arteries while we argue about who makes the best potato salad. The first dinner party I attended post-transformation was awkward. There I was standing in front of a buffet filled with casseroles, buttery rolls, creamy dips, and an entire cheese board that might as well have been whispering my name. I brought my own dish, quinoa salad, with roasted vegetables, olive oil, and lemon. I placed it on the table like it was an offering to the gods of awkward health decisions. Predictably, no one touched it at first. But as the night went on and people realized the mac and cheese was disappearing faster than Aunt Linda could refill it, guess what? My little salad got sampled. And a few people even said, "This is actually good." Score 1 for quinoa. The tricky part wasn't the food itself. It was the pressure. You don't realize how much food is tied to social identity until you start saying no thanks a lot. People act like you're rejecting them, not just the garlic bread. Historians still debate whether Roman banquets included warnings about overindulgence, but judging by the vomitoriums and sheer volume of roasted meats, I'm going to guess they weren't exactly pioneers of moderation. I had to learn how to navigate these moments, not with a speech, not with guilt, just with quiet confidence. I'd say I'm trying to eat cleaner, or I'm cutting back on saturated fat and leave it at that. No judgment, no drama, just choices. Eventually, I got good at it. I started hosting my own dinners. Nothing fancy, just fresh food, simple ingredients, zero pressure. I made lentil soup that simmered for hours, roasted cauliflower with turmeric and cumin, and even homemade hummus that could stand toe-to-toe with the store-bought brands. And people liked it. The first time someone asked me for a recipe, I almost cried into my sweet potato. Outside of social settings, the real test came at work. Office snacks, birthday cakes, donut Fridays. It felt like every day someone brought in a tray of temptation, and for a while I gave in. It's just one cookie, I'd say. But one cookie turned into 3, and by the end of the week, I was back in Bloat City population me. So I made a rule. No snacks I didn't bring myself. I kept almonds in my drawer, sliced apples in the fridge, a dark chocolate bar hidden like treasure to be savored one square at a time. And honestly, I felt like a wizard. While my coworkers dealt with sugar crashes and sleepy afternoons, I was typing away, fueled by fiber and stubbornness. One day I even brought in my famous roasted chickpeas. I left them in the break room. By noon, they were gone. Someone asked, "What kind of seasoning is that?" I smiled. Paprika and self-respect. Outside of work and social events, I also had to learn how to handle cravings when I was alone. Late at night, when the fridge sang its siren song, I'd open it, stare at the hummus, close it, and go drink some water. 9 times out of 10, I wasn't hungry. I was bored, tired, or emotionally fried. So I made a new rule: if I wouldn't eat a carrot, I wasn't really hungry. Oddly effective. And then there were the road trips, gas stations, a cholesterol carnival, chips, jerky, cheese-stuffed everything. But I planned ahead. I packed sandwiches on whole grain bread trail mix, the good kind, not the candy-coated chaos, and more bananas than a cartoon monkey. The key was preparation. You don't wait until you're starving to make a good choice. You make it easy for future you to succeed by setting them up with options that don't lead to shame snacking. At restaurants, I started asking questions. Is this grilled or fried? Can I get the sauce on the side? Do you have olive oil instead of butter? At first, it felt annoying, but eventually it became natural. I wasn't being difficult, I was being deliberate, and people respected that more than I expected. Even dessert became negotiable. I learned to love fruit again, not just as a side note, but as a celebration. Strawberries drizzled with balsamic glaze, frozen bananas blended into nice cream. Even plain mango slices, chilled and bright, were better than most pastries. It wasn't about denying myself pleasure. It was about redefining it. And the strangest part, I didn't feel deprived anymore. I felt powerful. Because for the first time in forever, I wasn't eating to please other people or to punish myself or because I was stressed. I was eating like I liked my body, like I wanted it to thrive. I still had moments of doubt, times I wanted to throw in the towel and drown in a vat of Alfredo. But those moments got fewer, and when they came, I didn't spiral. I paused. I breathed. I reminded myself why I started. And then I went and made a smoothie. The phone buzzed one Thursday afternoon, my doctor's number. I stared at it, heart pounding. This was the follow-up, the moment of truth. Had all my hummus sacrifices and roasted vegetable sermons actually changed anything? I picked up with a shaky, "Hello." She didn't waste time. "Your LDL is down. HDL's up. Triglycerides too. You're trending in the right direction." I blinked. "Wait, seriously?" She laughed. "Seriously, keep doing what you're doing." I hung up stunned. I hadn't expected the numbers to actually move. Not really. I'd hoped for a little shift, maybe well, you're not worse. But this was real progress. And the best part, I hadn't cheated. Not once. No secret drive-thrus. No late-night fast food runs. I'd stuck with it even when it felt thankless, even when no one noticed, even when my salad wilted mid-lunch and mocked me. I had earned this. Every drop of cholesterol that got cleared out, every triglyceride that retreated it, was like a badge of honor sewn into my bloodstream. So I celebrated. Not with cake, though I did raise a square of 85% dark chocolate in a dramatic solo toast, but with a long walk, my favorite playlist, and a sense of pride that didn't need frosting to feel sweet. It's funny, isn't it, how we measure success? Before, success meant fitting into jeans or getting compliments. Now it meant walking upstairs without wheezing, waking up without an alarm, feeling sharp at 4 p.m. instead of fading into caffeine-fueled fog. Historians still debate whether Leonardo da Vinci really said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication," but if he didn't, he should have, because that's what I'd learned. Simple choices done consistently worked better than any magic bullet. I wasn't perfect. My meals still leaned heavily on bowl-based architecture, but I felt strong. I felt light, not in pounds necessarily, but in presence, in peace. And then came the weird part. People started asking me for advice. Me, the guy who once Googled, "Is pizza a vegetable?" now explaining the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats to coworkers and cousins alike. I became the office healthy food person. My desk had more Tupperware than tech gadgets. I knew which vending machine snacks were safest almonds if you must. I even started packing extras for curious coworkers. One guy called my chickpea salad shockingly edible. I took that as a win. At home, I experimented more. I got weird with herbs. I blended cauliflower into mashed potatoes. I spiralized things that had no business being spiralized. My kitchen turned into a lab, my fridge into a rainbow. One weekend, I hosted brunch. Brunch used to mean mimosas and pancakes drowning in syrup. This time, I served sweet potato, hash, veggie frittata, whole grain toast with almond butter and watermelon slices sprinkled with mint. My friends didn't even notice the absence of bacon. They just ate and laughed and left feeling good. That was a turning point for me. I wasn't just following a cholesterol-friendly diet. I was living a lifestyle, and it wasn't boring. It wasn't sad. It was flavorful, vibrant, and sustainable. I started moving more too. Nothing crazy. No gym selfies, just walking every day, taking the stairs, stretching in the mornings, dancing in my kitchen to 80s pop songs while meal prepping. I even tried a yoga class, though. I'm still not convinced anyone's hips actually do that on purpose. The point is, I felt alive again. And with that came something I hadn't expected: confidence. Not the look at me kind, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers, "You've got this," when you're standing in front of a menu or facing a buffet full of regret. I'd built something strong, one decision, one bite, one walk at a time, and it showed. People noticed my skin glowing, my posture changing, my energy up, my laugh louder. It wasn't about getting smaller. It was about getting better, clearer, calmer. I didn't fear food anymore. I respected it. I didn't punish myself with workouts or diets. I honored my body by giving it what it needed: nutrients, rest, movement, love. And the numbers, the blood tests, those were just the receipts, the proof that all the small, boring, unglamorous choices added up to something big. Health. Not the kind you post on Instagram, the kind that quietly protects you, shields you, carries you through your days with grace and strength. I still craved cheese sometimes. I still eyed cupcakes at parties, but now I had tools, habits, awareness. I could enjoy one bite and stop. I could say no and not feel deprived. It wasn't willpower, it was practice. It was becoming who I wanted to be. And I couldn't wait to see where it would take me next. By the time I hit month 6, I wasn't just managing my cholesterol. I was rewriting the story I told myself about food health and what it meant to be in control, because it had stopped being about the numbers entirely. This journey had become something bigger. I started waking up differently. No more dragging myself out of bed like a zombie with a coffee addiction. I actually looked forward to breakfast. A bowl of oatmeal with sliced bananas and a spoon of almond butter tasted like fuel, now not filler, and that strange joy in choosing a green smoothie over syrup-laced waffles that was new and real. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. I realized how much of this wasn't just about what I was eating, but why I used to eat the way I did. It hit me one afternoon, stuck in traffic, craving a drive-through milkshake. I wasn't hungry. I was frustrated, tired, bored. The craving wasn't about food. It was about comfort. Historians still debate whether ancient Greeks saw gluttony as a moral failing or simply a response to abundance. Either way, they understood that food wasn't just nourishment, it was emotional armor. I had to learn new ways to cope. So instead of the milkshake, I rolled down the windows, turned up the music, and let the wind slap some sense into me. At home, I drank water, took a walk, and journaled for 10 minutes. The craving passed. The mood lifted. Score 1 for self-awareness. From then on, I paid closer attention. Late night snacking, usually loneliness. Midday cravings, often boredom. Emotional eating didn't disappear, but it lost its grip. Because I had new tools, not just almond flour and olive oil, tools like mindfulness, intention, breathing. And you know what else changed? How I saw other people. I stopped judging others for their choices because I understood now how hard it was to change. I also stopped judging myself. That was the big one. I'd spent years bouncing between guilt and indulgence. Now I was just living, eating like I deserved to feel good, moving like I had somewhere worth going, speaking kindly to myself even on the days I slipped, because I did slip. There was the time I caved and ate 2 slices of stuffed crust pizza at a family gathering. My stomach reminded me why I changed in the first place, but I didn't spiral. I just moved on. No punishment, just a reminder. Progress, not perfection. And then came my annual physical. Different doctor this time. New coat, new clipboard, same lab coat expression. He looked over my results, raised his eyebrows and said, "You've made significant improvement. Whatever you're doing, it's working." I smiled. Thanks. I'm eating like I love myself now. He looked surprised. That's not what most people say. I shrugged. That's probably the problem. He laughed. I didn't, because it was the problem. Most of us eat like we're mad at ourselves, like food is punishment or distraction, not nourishment. But when I flipped that script, everything changed. I also noticed changes outside my body. My relationships improved. I had more energy for people, more patience. I wasn't running on caffeine and mood swings. I could sit through a tough conversation without wanting to drown it in nachos. At work, I got sharper, clearer. I started leading meetings instead of zoning out in the back row. My confidence grew not just from how I looked, but from what I knew, that I could do hard things, that I could change. One coworker even said, "You're glowing. What's your secret?" I just said fiber. That night I thought about how far I'd come. From greasy dinners and guilt-laced snacking to chia puddings and oat milk lattes. From what's cholesterol again to let me show you how to make flaxseed crackers. It was surreal and kind of hilarious. I'd gone from heartburn to heart health. From craving comfort food to craving stability. From feeling stuck to feeling strong. I still missed certain things. That extra cheesy lasagna. The fried chicken from my favorite diner, the sound of a soda can opening on a hot day, but the trade-off, the clarity, the energy, the peace, worth it, every single time. I became a meal prep nerd. I followed food bloggers with names like Cholesterol Queen and Fiber Bro. I bought containers with compartments. I got excited about turmeric. But I also kept it real. I had Friday dark chocolate. I made whole wheat banana bread that could make angels weep. I roasted garlic and put it on everything because I could. I had fun with food again on my terms. And the best part, I didn't do it for a beach body. I didn't do it for compliments. I did it because I wanted to live. Fully, strong, unburdened. Because high cholesterol may be silent, but its consequences aren't. So I listened, I acted, I adapted. And somewhere along the way, I found something better than low LDL. I found freedom. The path was never perfect. There were days I forgot to pack lunch, days I stared too long at the dessert menu, and days I just didn't care about cholesterol, antioxidants, or soluble fiber. but those days no longer defined me. What defined me was what came after: the quiet choices, the uncelebrated victories, the salad I chose instead of the fries, the way I learned to say, "I'm full," and mean it, the rhythm of small acts, repeating, compounding, transforming me from the inside out. Because change doesn't come with fireworks. It whispers. It hums in your veins when your heart beats steady. It shows up when you wake up feeling rested. It appears in the mirror not as a different body, but as a calmer expression. The thing about cholesterol is it never asked for attention. It just lived in the background, affecting everything while saying nothing. So I had to listen harder, get quieter, trust the slow work. Now when I eat with presence, with gratitude, with understanding that food can harm, but it can also heal. And when I walk lighter, not just in weight, but in worry, because I know I took control. You can too. It doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't require perfection. Just awareness, just one better choice, then another, until one day, without even realizing it, you've built something unshakable. So if you're standing where I stood with numbers on a chart and fear in your chest, just know this: you're not alone, and you're not stuck. You're just at the beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for being here, for listening, for choosing your health one heartbeat at a time.